This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 185, recorded on September 25th, 2014. Here in Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all your favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the Average Guy.TV studios here in Bellevue, Nebraska. Although tonight we're in Brussels, Belgium, or at least close to that, so we have an international podcast tonight. And of course, we are live each and every week out at theaverageguy.tv/live. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, you can contact the show. Send us an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. You can find me on Twitter, just at jcollison. And now call in those questions, and actually Kyle did that this week, and we'd love to have you call those in. 402-478-8450. That is a U.S. number, so if you're overseas, use Skype to call in on that, and we'll play your question or comment right here on the show. And now Home Gadget Geeks is a part of the Geeks Network. Find the links to this show and all the other great podcasts out at thegeeksnetwork.com. Join us in chat. Watch and listen live on YouTube and on Spreaker, although tonight we turn the Spreaker off because I got some other things going on, and find all the navigation over at theaverageguy.tv. All right, we have got, like I mentioned before, we've got a little bit of an international show tonight. Before we introduce our guest, let me throw that over to our regular, and coming in from his headquarters at the University of Maryland, College Park, Christian Johnson. Christian, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Made it to the end of the week, and it's no class Friday for me tomorrow, so I'll be living it large tomorrow.
Nice.
And had some good presentation work done today on the NSF research I've been doing for the past four or five, almost 6 months now. So it was a good culmination of all that work so far, and ready to kick it on the show. So
very cool. All right, well, welcome. And we want to welcome our guest coming in from Brussels, Belgium, and Frederick from Adsy, ADSY.me. Frederick, how are you?
Fine, thank you. I woke up now. It's all right.
Yeah, we needed to give you a little bit of time. We have woken you up in the middle of the night. It's is it like 3 a.m.? Is that what it is right now?
It's 3 a.m. Almost 3 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a trooper. You go on my list of the most awesome Europeans that I know, because most of the rest of them go to sleep. I mean, you ever try and do a late podcast with anybody in the UK or anybody in Germany? I can't get anybody to stay up late there. Here in the US, I mean, I'm up till midnight, 1 every single night doing stuff.
I'm usually up until midnight, but yes, as I told you, I just left for 2 hours to be fresh for the podcast.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's great to have you on. Before we dig into the product, to the software that you guys are building, let's talk a little bit about you. Just give us kind of your background, and then maybe kind of lead us up to how you got the company started.
Okay, so I'm not that young. I just turned 40. So I started in the early days of the internet in the year 2000, 2001. I mean, internet services. I was one of the first to sell logos and ringtones for feature phones in Europe. So the monophonic ringtones and the black and white logos. I don't know whether you had that in the US.
Oh yeah. Ringtones were big business here for a while.
Back in the days. So we did it for a few years. So I did it for a few years, and then I switched to a consumer loan service via SMS. So where people were texting a short code to apply for credit, if you want. So I sold this brand to a bank in Paris. Then I moved into circus. I had my own circus with circus stands for 2 years.
Circus?
Yes,
like animals and...
Oh, not really animals. More like a small size Cirque du Soleil, something like that.
All right, very cool. Interesting.
Theater and musician and actors and circus performers. I'm also producing rock bands. So I produce a few rock bands. The most well-known in the US should be the Boxer Rebellion. Maybe you heard about them.
I haven't, but I'm more of a podcaster than I am a music guy, so that doesn't mean anything. I got some folks in chat now.
I'm a music geek, and then I started again in mobile 2 years ago with this project. I wanted to get back to tech after a few years of music and entertainment, and that's what brings us here.
Well, Frederick, let me tell you, you're still young by our standards, right? We're in our 40s too. I am now. Christian, he's young, right?
Yeah,
he's the kid.
He's hyper young. Yeah.
But many of our listeners are 50s and 60s, so we're the young kids. Let me just tell you
cool.
at this point.
Nice.
So
And you know I'm young when I'm the one that knows what Boxer Rebellion is and has it downloaded to my iTunes. And
that's great. That's cool.
Christian, give us a little a review of Boxer Rebellion.
they're they're a nice alternative sound. They're kind of I don't know how to. If you like Coldplay, but you like some more kind of subdued, out there stuff, I think it would fall in the category of Boxer Rebellion. They have a nice mix of tunes. They're not as common in the States, but there's a fair amount of people that I know who are alternative junkies like I am that all have it on their iPods. So I think I'm trying to remember the name of their album, but I think I bought the one that came out in like 2011 or 2012.
We've had 4 albums now so far. Exit, Union, The Cold Steel, and the latest one is Promises.
Oh, so I just completely. So you're in that group.
No, I'm not. I'm not in the group. I'm an investor in the band.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
in their management company in London. Yeah.
Gotcha.
You're
Yeah,
the man, Frederick. You're the man. That's the one they're rebelling
I-
against.
I-
Right?
I
The
pay-
man is holding me down.
I pay the bills. I paid some bills
Yeah.
at least.
I definitely bought the EP for I think the Union one.
Yeah, Union was when they did a movie in the US called Going the Distance. It was a rom-com with Drew Barrymore and Justin Long, the Mac guy, in the Mac versus PC.
Yeah. I think I remember hearing about it. So very
Yeah.
cool. Well, just so you're a celebrity, and so thanks again.
No, I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a random guy.
Well, hey, let's talk about Adsy, and we came across this. I can't remember. I'm trying to think how I came across this. I read a blog post or I saw it online, and I thought, and I've always been looking for a mobile app that I could easily turn into an RSS feed reader or a podcast player for the show here, because I get a lot of folks. A lot of the listeners are techie, and so they don't have any problem using a Beyond Pod or the applications that come out. But we're trying to branch out a little bit, and I'm trying to make it super easy for folks to listen to podcasts. And I saw your app. So talk a little bit about this platform, and I'll encourage people, adsy.me. Go out there right now, whether you're listening at home or you're listening live, pop out to the site. Super simple, but talk about the genesis of it. How'd you guys come up with the concept? What were you shooting for?
So the idea that we had was to create a mobile app to create mobile apps. So kind of an inception concept, if you want. But very, very early, we came to the conclusion that we wanted to do something on the web instead of having a native application. So not something that you would download from the App Store or from Google Play, but something that you could just use in the browser of your mobile phone, an iOS or an Android phone. So we started this project as a mobile web app. So if you open Adsy.me in Safari or in Chrome or on your iPhone or on your Nexus or I don't know, Samsung S5 or whatever, it will work immediately, so you don't need to download anything. And then we decided to actually port, that's the word, the mobile web app to PC so that you can use it on your PC also. So you can open it on your laptop, on your desktop PC, in your browser, in Safari, in Chrome, or in Firefox, not Internet Explorer for technical reasons. So basically, it's a cross-platform web applications to create basic web applications. So that's the concept.
Yeah, that's the concept, and it's very easy to use. Let me on a mobile device. I mean, it really just takes up the whole screen. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to share my screen out, and so folks can kind of see. And Frederick, maybe you can let me block on that so it stays up in there. And so maybe you can talk. We can kind of do a little bit of a live demo on this. I will. I've signed up. I have a username and login. I've created a little app. So let's look at my app, and then maybe you can walk me through a few other things that we've done in this. And so So my goal initially was to, and this is I don't think I'm going to give away any information by people looking at this that's going to
No.
matter, but and so I have an inbox, and you've kind of created a little bit of a social feel to this as well, right? There's ways to
Oh
share.
yeah, so because basically when you create something, as you said, you need to sign up. So we've got your user account created around you, and we will just display the different Etsy apps that you create on your user account. And then we're gradually building the social network around this. So following other users, potentially in the near future messaging other users. And also all the discovery part around it that we are building. So the whole idea around this is that we've been working now for more approximately 2 years on the platform, on the concept, and the idea is to just iterate on the format and use the format for something else. I will maybe tell you a bit later what we're planning to do in the next 2 to 3 weeks, which will be kind of a scoop for you tonight.
Oh, very cool.
But yes, so all the work that we've been doing was around, okay, let's create something which is smooth, sexy, and easy to use in the browser of a smartphone. And here you are on your PC, and you can see there's a kind of emulator around the experience, just to show you that the format is optimized for smartphones. But you can display it as you're doing now on your PC. And I think that it was 3 weeks ago we released a feature for sharing purposes where you can embed a creation on a blog or on a website. So you can take an Adsy app that you've created, you've got a snippet of code, and you can embed it like a YouTube video
Oh, okay.
on your website.
Yeah, that might be helpful. Again, with my purpose of this to be kind of to create this alternative RSS feed or RS reader or podcast player, right? Where I can, when I post something out there or I post a most recent video or make it easy for me to post a video out there. And then I want folks to be able to scroll through and watch it. So let's look at my app real quick. I know you've looked through this. I haven't changed it much since the last time we talked, but just for demonstration purposes, let me walk through what I've got, and then you maybe can walk me through some other things as well.
Yeah.
So, I'll be honest, this is like this is like an hour or two worth of work, maybe not even that. So
Yeah, we can show one about the Boxer Rebellion later. If you want.
yeah, and maybe you can share your screen, and because that might be more efficient to have you walk through it
How do I
and
do it, basically?
do it that way. Let me pop in here real quick, and I'll say here's the app creation piece that I've created, and if I wanted to create a new one, I've got a draft down here below, but this is the actual app that I have created right here. I actually have to click the button on the right the right web page. And so I'm going to go, at this case, I'll go into view mode to start. And so this is just going to pull up the way it's going to look on the site. And if I was on the phone, and I push that arrow, it would push it down to the very, in this case, it would push it down to the very next screen, right, at this point.
Yeah.
So,
And so yeah, on your phone you don't have the two arrows that you're showing at the moment on the phone or on the tablet. You just swipe up and down with your fingers. So it's just because most people don't have a touch screen on their PC. They can't play with their fingers, so we just had two arrows there. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. It gives me the ability to emulate a swipe up or swipe down. So, in this case, we had interviewed, and her name is escaping me, but Social Bro, and so this was the podcast that I put together with them. I laid a graphic behind it. I embedded a YouTube video in there, and I put a little graphics. And if you push that, it'll automatically play the YouTube video for you. And the thought was I could always keep the most updated podcast that we do here. This is 179. We're on 185. So about 5 or 6 weeks ago, you could put the most recent episode always on the front. And then if people wanted to scroll down and get some of the other podcasts that were in the network, they could scroll through those and click any one of those buttons. Ideally, it'd be great for me in the future if that would auto-update for me in some way. We can talk about that a little bit later. But that was kind of my, so I rolled through those. I put about 4 or 5 out there. An easy way for someone to come to the network, so to speak, or to click on it. What I liked about it, Frederick, is that I didn't have to submit this to an Apple store or a Google Play store. It just works on the web.
Yeah, if you click on the sharing button at the top right there, you will see the different ways to share it. So you've got a URL, which is the direct URL to this little Adsy app. Then you can share it directly to social network. And if you just with your mouse or I don't know your trackpad, scroll down a little bit in this thing. Yeah, you see the snippet of code that you can use to embed it on your website. So if you take this this thing, and if you open any HTML service, Tumblr, for instance, or whatever, or WordPress, you just throw this in the code, and it will play without a phone emulator around it. It will play it. So you can add it.
So if I wanted to add that here,
you go to text. You go to text.
Okay.
You get a text there, yeah. Then you go to HTML. You tap on it on the bar there. HTML, yeah, cool. Then you paste it. Okay, you've got everything. Then you do post, or you can put a title if you want, test or something. Yeah, and then you just post it. Posts, yep. It's done, and then you just open the blog. Oh, no, open the blog there on the. Oops. Yeah, but you see it. Okay, cool.
No, that's fine.
You see, and then and then you don't have. It's just the square and the toolbar, but as you see, you don't have any phone Chrome around it because
very cool.
It's an embed. And you can have multiple ones on the same page. You could imagine that you can create something like a Pinterest grid of 6, 8, 10, or whatever different apps on the same page. So because the concept around Adsy is not that you would always maintain the one and the same app. You can create some. Yeah, you cannot like your own app. But you can create Adsy apps for different purposes. So if you want to promote an event, if you want to invite someone to a barbecue party or whatever, you can just create an Adsy app for it. So you don't have to just stick to the same one and maintain it, because anyway, your visitors can go to your profile and see the different apps that you have created. So if you click on your avatar in the middle, there it will bring you to the profile. You just have one, but you could have multiple ones. You could have, if you type instead of G Collison in the top bar of your menu, if you type Adsy there, so just add Adsy, ADSY, not me, Adsy, yeah, tap up, go. You see you've got plenty of apps that I've created, and you even see how many people are following me, which is the number of registered users at the moment. So
I was going to ask you that question, so that satisfies that. So you have about 20-some thousand users.
Yeah, on the right is 20,835 registered users. That's how many we've registered since April. And you see here different apps. If you swipe, if you just scroll down, you'll see plenty of them. For instance, yeah, if you go to Always, you see Always there. Yep. This is one about the Boxer Rebellion latest single, Always, and you can have a video of it. You can, if you type on Facebook there, type there. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can embed a Facebook feed directly in an app. That's something we released, I think, last month, 2 months ago.
Yeah, you guys are really working on this, right? I mean, this is something you're actively at. When I talked to you a month ago before we booked you on here, it seems like, talk about your developer that's working with you, because there's a lot of, I mean, you guys are quickly iterating, right?
Yeah, it's just the two of us. So I'm not a developer. I'm like more a product guy. And my partner in the venture, Alex, is a JavaScript HTML5. I would say genius, as you can see from what he's doing. And yeah, that's the reason why it took so long also, to be honest, because it's a very small, lean team. And we've been working on this for quite a long time now. We haven't really promoted it since we released it, because we wanted to keep improving the format, working with the users, seeing what they're doing. So we've built also a big ass dashboard behind the scenes to see what's going on and moderate the apps and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a really big project. I mean, technically it's just crazy. I can tell you. And I can just give you a hint of what we'll be doing. So if you click on Rock in California, so you see with the rock sign there on the right. Yeah, this one. So this is an example of. It would give you a hint of what we will be doing with the format. So if you just swipe down or go down with the arrows, So you will see just like an introduction square. So yeah, just to give also your viewers an idea of the concept in terms of format. So each page of an Adsy app is a square, okay? So you can like it basically. And yeah, you can like it because it's my app, and yeah, you see Boom 2 there. you had a nice animation. So basically, each page is a square. On a square, you can throw whatever you want. You can throw text, as you can see, small shapes like this arrow or the drum kit there. You can move them around, scale them, change the font, whatever. We can show that maybe later. You can also put there a YouTube video player, SoundCloud player. So if you go down, for instance, you see there you've got a SoundCloud player on the bottom left of the thing. So if you play on this, yeah, oh, there's a problem, but it should play. Okay, cool. You see the Twitter feed there. Okay, so there you can see this guy has got a Twitter feed about him. And okay, so we can close it. So this is a square about the band. So this guy, you see his picture in the background, you see some text, you see a SoundCloud player, or you see a Twitter feed. If you go down, you will see another band. Okay, and if you go down, another band. So the idea when I created this one for the bands was to tell them, okay, I've created an Adsy app about the band from the Walloon region in Belgium. The French-speaking part in the south of Belgium, and this is an app featuring a few rock bands. Most of them went quite crazy about it. They started sharing the app URL on social networks. They were very excited, and we had more than 1,000 visits like in 2 days just for this random app about random bands. None of those guys are as well known as the Boxer Rebellion, to be honest. And so it gave me the idea that I've been doing that also in the past. It gave me the idea of creating a service where actually all the squares in the app would be anything from bands to small businesses, models, any kind of subject summed up into a square, and then where users, visitors, would be able to vote for those elements, content units, and move the squares in the top list. So a bit like a chart, like a top 50 chart of the Billboard, if you want, you know. Mm-hmm. And that's what we'll be introducing. So it will be a bit reskinned in terms of experience. So the central element at the top won't be the link to the profile, but it will become a big ass like button where you can just like and move the squares around in the top list. And the idea around this is that the participants in the top will invite their fans to vote for them and move them and push them to the top of the top list, if you want. And at the end of the period, the number one, so the first one in a list of 50, for instance, will get a featured promotion sent out to all the voters of the top. So let's imagine 50 bands, each of them gets 100 votes on average, so that's 5,000 voters altogether. At the end of the contest, we send an email to the 5,000 people saying, hey, this is the number one of the list. So actually it gives them like a hockey stick leverage effect, if you want, if they are the number one, and it gives them the eyeballs of all the voters in the contest. So we will repeat that for plenty of different verticals, plenty of different use cases, and we will distribute the widget that you saw earlier on your blog. So this concept of embedded Adsy apps on media websites like newspapers websites, TV websites, radio websites, where we will actually distribute those widgets so that they can create also their own tops with us. And so that would be the first commercial iteration, if you want, of the format.
Yeah, and I could see you could add podcasters into that. If you have a podcast network, you could create, right? Each show would have its own square, and they could vote on that, and you could do a variety that way.
So, so the default unit of Adsy in this iteration will become this square, where on the square you kind of give a visit card of the business, of the creative person, the artist, the designer, the whatever you can think about. You see here, you've got a YouTube video on the right of this one. So yeah, so that's the idea, that's the concept, and so we will add new plugins to add new services on those squares. We could imagine that we have so we'll have, for instance, Vimeo for videos, Bandcamp for sounds. We could have a small, at some point, RSS feed reader, which in the same way that you display, this Twitter feed or Facebook feed, we can have the same kind of thing for an RSS feed displaying a list, for instance. That's not a big deal. So we will add new plugins so that you can actually create something very cool in a square, and then those squares can be reused, recycled, if you want, from one top to the other. So we can just take the squares, reshuffle them, and create a new top based on the squares. So that would be the format.
You bet. Frederick, what kind of feedback are you getting from users as far as you're outside the typical app infrastructure? You're different than responsive design, right? I mean, this is really kind of a new genre in some ways, at least for me. The first time I've seen this kind of activity going on for apps development. What kind of feedback are you getting from your users?
I mean, most of the engaged ones are very excited about it. They create usually multiple ones for different use cases. The most typical use cases I've had so far, I didn't chase them, but were churches. So churches, like like church leaders promoting their obviously Sunday events or their youth camps or whatever they can think about. So they create truckloads of them. Musicians, obviously, event like conferences organizers making an app about their conference, and also kids like teenagers making a kind of GeoCities kind of web app using Adsy to share random passions. My kids who are age, I mean, the two oldest ones, age 9 and 11, they're using it to just create small, I would say, websites on steroids for mobile.
Yeah. Well, so, and let's not forget the magic of this is it's really meant to be built on a mobile device. The development on the multiple device, right? I mean, that's how I started doing it. And it was funny. I was at church. I had a break in between some stuff we were doing, and I was messing around with it. I was like, hey, wait a minute, I can just do this right on my phone. I mean, I don't have to get on a PC to do development. I can do it right there on the phone.
Yeah, so it goes both ways. You can start on your PC, publish it, and then modify it on the go. So if you want to correct a typo, or if you want to add a new picture, if you do some kind of visual blogging, if you want, you can start it on your phone on the go, and you can modify it on your PC. So it's really cross-platform. That's the cool fact about it. And some people thought in the beginning that you had to be on the App Store to create something targeted at mobile, and we just proved without any kind of advertising that people can just connect with something if it just works also in the browser of the mobile. But to be honest, it's really the first time that I see something that advanced in the browser of a mobile phone. Usually it's like a piece of crap what you see in the world of mobile web apps. So, but there's no secret. I mean, it took a long time to develop something like this. Not 3 weeks, not the usual accelerator kind of project that you see in 8 weeks or 12 weeks.
Yeah. Christian, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just curious if you could talk a little bit about what types of resource consumption and app size Adsy takes, because I imagine there's a lot of pre-compiled libraries to build and interact with the different objects that people may include or exclude.
I mean, it doesn't take a lot. As far as we're concerned, all of this was written from scratch, so there's no jQuery mobile or all those JavaScript libraries used in the Adsy apps. It was really written from scratch by Alex. So it's like, just to give you a rough idea, it's more than 50,000 lines of code for the main app. So it's pretty crazy. It's like the Bible in terms of size. But there's, I mean, it's really fresh code. So it wasn't. I mean, for the geeks, it's not something that that's a compilation of existing frameworks like Ionic or Famous or whatever.
Gotcha.
It's something really fresh. And then obviously we load some external resources for YouTube, SoundCloud, and this kind of thing. But it's pretty light, so it's quite fast. But we don't. We advise people not to create like 100-page apps because that would take ages to load in the mobile browser. So the typical format we've seen so far is 5 to 10 pages, and then people tend to create another one if they want to focus on another subject, because anyway all those little Adsy apps are together on their user profile. So there's no reason to create like something which is 150 pages long. It's not the typical format.
Sure.
And so yeah, so apart from that, I mean every single aspect of this app is like, I would say, an innovation in terms of UX. I saw that Christian was playing with the Magic Touch function, which is pretty cool. I see that in the small thumbnail. So the Magic Touch is when you want to create a link to another page or to one of those iframes like Twitter or Facebook, you just highlight the zone with your finger on your phone or with your mouse on your PC, and it creates this kind of fluo marker zone that you can see on the little thumbnail there. And then you choose your target. So it's I mean, I had never seen that before. So that's something that we created, but just to paint this zone, you know, the zone on a piece of text or on a shape, just to do this kind of thing took like weeks of development.
Right.
Because it's really painting a zone with some pixels around the line. So it's not a bounding box. Like let's imagine you paint a diagonal on a rectangle. If you use the usual way if you do the usual way, you would have like a big rectangle that would be clickable. But here we just, if you draw a line, that's just the line which is clickable, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and so you can see how easy. I mean, as you've been talking.
Yeah.
So I added text. I added a YouTube video in here. I highlighted an area, and typically I'd put the text in first,
Yeah.
and then maybe highlight the area of the text.
So, and if you go on view mode, yeah, at the top there, you would just remove, you see you remove the zones, and then if you created the link, it will go to the target. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
that's an external target, yeah.
Yep, and so you can see how useful that is. It would invoke the browser on a phone. It would invoke the browser log.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
so
how
yeah,
do I get the social options in there? Like if I wanted to add my Facebook page.
Okay, I will show you. So just tap on the little ends to activate the Magic Touch on the left. So the little end, the Magic icon. Okay, then go to the zone that you highlighted. Okay, the zone, there, for instance. Tap there. Okay, so then you edit. So the button there. Then you go to iframe embed. Yeah, and then you choose Twitter feed, for instance, or Facebook.
Yeah, here we'll do a Twitter feed.
Okay, Twitter feed, and then you put your handle without the @ so without the like this. Then you go validate, then you go view mode.
Okay.
View mode at the top, cool, and then you tap on click. Yeah,
boom,
and then you see the guy.
Wow,
that's
spectacular. I mean, that was just like 3 clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. It's one of these things. As I've been trying to explain it to people, it doesn't necessarily, you know, they don't get it right away. So I'll encourage you, if you're listening to the audio of this, because a lot of my listeners, it's audio only, head over to our YouTube page and look it up, because the links will be there, everything you need to see. Watch the video of this, because I'm not a very creative guy, Frederick, and I created this pretty quick, right? I mean, imagine somebody who's creative, some of the things they could do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and just to give you a bit of feedback and context around what we've seen so far. So actually the one and only challenge with the Adsy app as it is today has been to have people creative enough and also dedicate more than 15 seconds, which is like the average, or even 8 seconds, which is like the average people tend to dedicate to a digital task today, to start creating something. I mean, the main obstacle is the fact that most people, and I guess you see that also in the US, suffer from attention deficit disorder today. Apparently, we have the attention span of a goldfish at the moment, which is the main issue that young people are facing today. So that's also the reason why we're thinking about plenty of, I would say, iterations of the format optimized for visitors more even than for creators, because creators typically in any online service would be like 1% of the audience, curators 9% of the audience, and visitors basically tapping on links 90% of the audience. So so you need to have a format which works for the creators, like the minority of the worldwide population, and for the visitors, like the vast majority of the people on Earth. Mm-hmm. But that's a pretty cool format for consumption. So it does the job for visitors, and that's a nice format for creators. So it does the job for people like me for creation purposes.
Yeah, no, very good. I think it's got a lot. I'd love for our community here, and you know, we get a lot of folks that listen to this. I'd love for them to jump over there and try this out, and then send me. You can email those, Jim at theaverageguy.tv. Share them on Twitter at jcollison. Share with me your creations. I am, like, my son is an artist. I need to share this with him. He would be able to really do some great stuff with this. You know, again, I make very functional stuff. It was funny when I was talking to you. You're like, "Oh, give me a few hours, and I'll make a really good one for you." And I felt really bad. I'm like, "Ooh, mine must not be very good." But it's one of those things.
It's just that because it's very visually oriented. If you've never been like a visual designer, I mean, usually you hear this phrase which says that it's not because you give words or pages to someone that all of a sudden they become a novel writer. You know, mm-hmm. It's not because you give a tool to someone that's all of a sudden they become an artist. So that's we give the open canvas, and then people throw whatever they want in the open canvas. So we've got, you know, visual artists by trade who can just do some awesome stuff visually speaking, and then we've got people who use it for more functional purposes, and it's like an open platform. So I cannot feel. You know, I cannot have any feelings about it. I just see what's happening and what people are making of it. So, you know,
very cool, Frederick. I'd love to spend more time with you. We've got a hard stop tonight, just in the sense that I've got another podcast to do in Korea. But I want to say thanks for waking up super early again to do this. Christian, any final thoughts from you before we let Frederick go?
I was just wondering if you could give the quick 60 seconds of what you envision the social component of this platform being, because I know that's something you've talked about a lot with building.
Okay, but the social component is basically the same kind of thing you would think about Instagram on one side, or Tumblr. So when you go on Instagram, you post a picture and you can see the pictures posted by the other people. In the same way that here you can see through the profiles of other people, the people that you follow, what they're creating. So it's like the basic social network that you would think about linked to a content creation platform. You know, gotcha. So that's the idea. Just to see what other people are doing, and in the same way you would browse through Instagram pictures in a feed if you want. That's the idea.
Very cool. Well, we will look forward to. We'll mess around with it. I'm going to try and get our community to give it a shot, see what they come up with, see how creative. We saw a whole bunch of examples on I assume on the site there's some examples as well that people can look at to get ideas.
We featured some of them, so if they are really awesome, we feature them. So that's also.
There's the challenge, right? Make a really awesome one, so
you will be featured. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Very
and
cool.
You can get in the newsletter sent to 20,000 people there if you are really good.
Very nice. Well, Frederick, again, thank you for burning a little bit of the midnight oil. Go back to bed now and get some rest. Hopefully you won't have any nightmares on this. We'll get some
Thanks
follow-up.
for having me. Thanks
You
for
bet.
having me.
You're welcome. We'll get some follow-up. Can we stay in touch with you maybe in a couple months, maybe have you back on again and see how things are progressing? Maybe we'll get some traction on some folks creating apps. Would you be open to that?
Yeah, we show you, like, in 2 months you will have the top list iteration that I talked about, and you will see some top lists and how it
Very
goes,
good.
and that would be an interesting move.
Perfect. Well, when you're ready, let me know, and
Thank you
and we'll
very
have you
much.
back on. I appreciate it. So, Frederick, we'll let you go. Thanks for staying up late for us again. I appreciate it. So thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
You
for
bet. I'll remind the listeners that are out there, we're going to cut over. You're not going to see it right now if you're listening live. I'm actually going to cut you off, but we're going to cut you over if you're listening to the recorded version of an interview that I did with Terry Ryan from Adobe out at the Heartland Developer Conference just a couple weeks ago. He had some interesting thing about what's going on with Creative Cloud and what's happening at Adobe, and we'll play that. I'll play that interview right behind this. But for Christian and for Frederick, we'll say thanks. I'm going to let the live folks go. Sorry I've got to cut it out so early tonight. I need to head over to another podcast, so I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Jim Collison from the Heartland Developer Conference here in Omaha, Nebraska for 2014. I'm here with Terry Ryan. Terry works for Adobe and is our morning keynote for tomorrow. We're recording this on Thursday. He'll be coming in on Friday. Terry, thanks for coming out and being a part of what we do.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Let's do a little focus on you. Just kind of tell us who you are, what you do, your position at Adobe, how long you've been there, those kinds of things.
Sure. So my name is Terry Ryan. I work for Adobe as a Creative Cloud evangelist. My current role is getting people to adopt Adobe Creative Cloud.
Love Creative Cloud, by the way.
Great to hear.
Yeah, I have a feature enhancement, but we'll cover that later.
We can cover that. Yeah, I'll be happy to pass it along to the team. But my role has evolved over the years. I started out as a developer evangelist, focused on Adobe's developer technologies, and I've slowly kind of gone from developer to creative.
Yeah.
Over the course of the career.
Very cool. And where are you located?
I'm based out of Philadelphia, and there's no office there.
I was going to say, that doesn't seem to be the mecca of...
Evangelism is a heavy on the road
I
job
bet you
description.
do.
So there's no point to having me in the office.
No, you're probably all around. Part of your job is to come and do these kinds of things. We deal with like Vince Cerf, who's a technical evangelist for Google and the father of the internet, and those kinds of guys. Pete, I think, is even an evangelist from Microsoft. And so, cool job. You don't have to be there, but you probably get to spend a lot of time. You do a lot of these conferences.
Spend a lot of time in the Bay Area.
Yeah. And is Adobe, they're headquartered in?
There's two main headquarters. There's San Jose and San Francisco.
Okay.
Today, most of the stuff is being done, I'd say, it's split probably between San Jose and San Francisco.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm a San Jose kid. I grew up in San Jose.
Okay.
I graduated from high school out there. I don't miss it. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Okay.
I love Nebraska. I love the Bay Area.
Okay.
Weather's fabulous, all those things, but I love Nebraska, and so we say the wagon wheel broke, and we just never left. So
the only thing you don't have is In-N-Out, right?
Is what?
In-N-Out.
No, true.
But you have steak. And
We do have.
I imagine that softens that blow a little bit.
We have Omaha steaks, and it's good. No, Nebraska is, and especially Omaha, I think is one of the best kept secrets in the Midwest, and thriving tech community, and everybody knows everybody, but it's big enough that there's great opportunities, and Warren Buffett lives here, and we have ConAgra and UP and Berkshire and Gallup and a lot of the organizations that that are here, Mutual of Omaha.
Been here a bunch. So
good.
It's definitely, this is my, I think, third time here at HDC.
Okay.
And, no, I've been through here a bunch, and I echo everything you say about it.
Yeah, no, good conference, and our good friends at AIM are doing it now, and so we're excited about that. Taking it kind of to the next level, so we're pretty excited about that. Let's talk a little bit about you. You wrote a book, but you're here speaking on your keynote. Talk a little bit about, give me a little kind of a synopsis of what you're going to talk about tomorrow during your keynote.
Sure. So the keynote's about the book. The book is Driving Technical Change, and the idea is you go to a conference like this, you absorb new tech, and you want to bring it back to your office.
Yeah.
And invariably you're met with resistance.
No,
it never happens.
It's always a successful, you come back with a hot idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I experienced that a lot early in my career and started tinkering with ways of getting around that, and found that some things worked, some things didn't, and kind of came to the idea that this really was a patterns problem, that people resist in patterns and you can counter them in patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically what you do is you kind of survey your landscape, survey who's resisting you, and try to classify the resistance as one of a couple different kinds. For example, there's the burned, right? Is one of my types.
Yeah.
They've
okay.
used the technology, but either it was a bad implementation or it was too early in the cycle or whatever.
Had a
but
bad manager.
Had a bad man, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe they screwed it up, but you don't want to ring that bell too loudly.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they've experienced it before, and so they just knee-jerk, no, I don't want to do that again.
Right.
Like, NoSQL didn't work for us once.
Never going to work
gonna
again.
use it again.
Okay.
And
what do you label them again as?
The burned.
The burned.
Yes,
okay.
as in they've been burned.
Yes. No, I like it. Yeah.
And basically, each one of them has like a, like there's the uninformed, there's the time crunched, the cynic, the irrational, which is their own type.
The cynic? Is that
the cynic?
The cynic.
That's one of the ideas that I always say is that when you go and present whatever, you're presenting an idea, you're trying to get people on board, in a technical role, intelligence is our currency, and so you want to look smart. You want to get in front of a group and look smart. But it's actually much harder to be smart than it is to look smart.
Yes.
Because all you need to do to look smart is have a little bit of information of the smart person who prepped. And so the cynic is, they knee-jerk no on any new thing. And they sort of, they take you down by just, those little pieces.
Yeah.
And one of the key things I want to get across here is that most of these, with the exception of the irrational, they're actually rational reasons. And so being rational, being logical, you can argue your way through them, with the exception of the irrational.
Yeah, because you're never gonna. What was the genesis for the book? Why write that when you wrote it?
I think it's been long enough that I can say this without pissing off former employers. So I had a bad experience at one employer, and basically tried to make lemonade out of it. I learned all this stuff by constantly running up against a brick wall and figuring out some of the things that worked. What if I could take that and not just codify it for myself, but help other people with it?
Yeah. So born out of an experience, and then how much time did it take? Certainly you need to do a little research, collect your thoughts, write some stuff. How long was that process to get to the point where you're ready to really start writing?
So I would say I spent maybe like a year and a half of sort of convincing myself that I had a book. And then Pragmatic Bookshelf, which is my publisher, they're fantastic. They have an open submission policy.
Oh, great.
So if you have a proposal for a book, they say, here's what you need to do to propose your book. Send it along to us. I did. They liked the idea. And then it took about 2 years to write the book. Because at the same time I was pitching the book, was also the same time where I was trying to get the gig with Adobe, and they hit at the same time, of course.
Of course.
Never.
No, it guarantees
when it rains, it pours, and so.
Which isn't a bad thing.
No, it's absolutely a good thing. But it took me about 2 years to write from start to finish.
So a couple-year process to get to have what has been, and when did it publish? How long has it been out now?
Let's see, 2010.
Oh, it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
What's been the residual effect of that for you? Have you had people come to you? Because this is a passionate subject, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're dealing with people's emotions in the workplace. This is about how people respond to change emotionally.
Well, and I think in general, whenever you get feedback unsolicited, you're going to get one of two kinds, right? You're going to get no one that says, "Hey, that thing you did, you did it."
Yeah.
They either love it or they hate it.
Right.
So on the negative side, criticism's been like, this is all common sense.
Yeah.
On the positive side, it's might be common sense, but I wish someone had told me, when I started, 5 years ago. So I think that's been the thing. And you nailed it. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, there you go.
I get the metaphor eventually.
It's okay. I'm metaphorically challenged myself.
That it's emotional. It's not, yes, you can reason your way through it, but the fact of the matter is technology is rife with the situations where the best technology, from a objective standpoint, doesn't win.
Right.
And there are plenty of reasons for that.
Yeah.
And this is another one of those cases where it's not enough to be right, because we, as developers, we often think binarily. Well, if it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Right equals good.
Yeah.
Right equals win.
Yeah.
That's not always the case. No.
And so, one of the big points I make is that, you need these new skills in order to You need to dip into office politics, and people hate office politics. But at the end of the day, like they're there, and so in so much as that you want people to adopt a new thing, you have to be willing to adopt a new thing, which is fighting on a different plane, which is the political, interpersonal, and not based solely on the merits of the technology.
Would you consider it a guide to office politics in some ways? Because it's almost like a survival guide, right?
It is,
in some ways.
It can be.
The title could be "How to Get Done What You Want Done."
Well, there's a couple caveats there. First one being that it is very focused on I've got a new thing that I want pushed through.
Right.
How do I push it through? It's not going to tell you how to deal with the fact that you pissed off your boss on day 5 and it's been a nightmare.
He's still holding a grudge.
That thing that's not going to help with.
Right.
But in general, when you've got an agenda of something you want to push forward, this is something that's going to help.
Yeah.
Because the office politics as a whole is such a giant.
It's really hard.
Topic.
It's really hard. Yeah, the technology I think dwarfs.
Now this is where I'm a bad marketer. I totally should say no. Buy the book. It'll solve every problem you ever have.
No, I think.
But no, it is very targeted for this.
Well, it's interesting. I'll have to.
And it assumes you're right. That's the other thing. Like one of the early caveats is like assuming that you've done your work and this actually is a technology that would help your workplace.
Right.
Because if you're pushing the wrong thing, it doesn't matter if you're doing it for the right ways. Either you'll succeed and then find out it was the wrong thing later down the road, or I've had that happen.
Did you find that you had to write the book whether anybody bought it or not? Did you feel like it was one of those things you're like, I gotta get this out of me?
Yeah, I think so. I think I wanted,
No, I think I find that interesting. When I first started blogging, I felt that way. I'm like, I have things to say. I don't care if anybody reads them. In fact, one of the very first blogs I ever wrote, 7 years ago, was like, I don't care if you read this. This is for me. It's a healing process. It's a therapeutic process. It's a celebration process. I'm going to write it whether you like it or not. And in your case, you just happened there was enough material and it was written well enough and it was published.
Well, I think that's also a really good point that through the, I started writing the book from a place of anger, right? And over the course of it, like having to put yourself in someone else's shoes, having to, a lot of times I was in fights with people over stuff, and they weren't wrong, like just because they disagree, coming to that conclusion that, understanding that the time crunched, people that they're just so they're pegged, right? Like their processors at 100%. They can't,
and it's been that way for a while.
Exactly, and they can't take the time to maybe do something that might edge them down because they're stuck. Understanding where that comes from, understanding what it's like to be in that position, and then trying to figure out how you can navigate around that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great guide too for college students going into the workplace. Is welcome to office politics, and they've witnessed this in college. It's nothing new to them, right? But it is one of those things. I find myself. We do a lot of interns, and I find myself doing a lot of counseling with the interns, especially after they've been there for less than a year, and saying, okay, because they'll come to me like, this shouldn't be, it should not be this way, and I'm like, okay, there's humans involved. This is not a machine. This is not school where you get whatever you want, and the professors are, doing whatever it takes to get you to pass the class. This is life, and so it sounds to me like there's some great material in there, at least, the survival guide to office politics.
No, I think that's a really there's a concept for martial arts where you start with a white belt, and then you gradually get different colored belts, and you get a black belt, and then over time, as a black belt, eventually you wash it enough, because you use it enough that it eventually fades back to white. And there's the same idea with office politics that people start to say, oh, there's no office politics. I'm out of college. There's no real office politics. This is a tech job, right?
Yeah, right.
And then they start to realize it's there, and they're like, I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And then some people take the path of like, well, no, I'm going to actively try. I'm going to hold my nose, but I'm going to go, and I'm going to try to do this. So they wiggle a bit, and they find that, I did a little bit of office politics, and it worked. Yeah. So then they start to master it. They start to become good. And they start to, I know before I do this that I got to talk to Bob, because Bob shuts down everything. So I talk to him first and get him on side. And then at the end of it, they're at a point where they just know. They got a new idea. They talk to Bob. They get his approval. They bring it in. They bring it into the rest of the group. They know, don't bring it in on Monday or Friday. Bring it in, and they learn that.
Make sure you have donuts.
And then for them, office politics has disappeared.
Right.
Because
And then
it's
they
just-
say they don't have any, but they've
Exactly.
learned to navigate the
Exactly.
system. Yeah, yeah. No, tons of truth in all that, and certainly it exists, and so we got to learn how to deal with it. And so, tell me the name of the book again.
It's called Driving Technical Change.
Okay.
Available.
A Kindle?
So
Kindle version?
there is a Kindle version.
Okay.
Pragprog.com does not. They don't sell through Amazon.
Okay.
So you go to pragprog.com
Gotcha.
and you can find it, and they give you all of the like you get Kindle, like basically you buy an electronic copy of the book and they give you whatever format.
Whatever. They
Yep.
give you everything.
Yep.
Very good. We'll put a link to that in the YouTube show notes right down below the video here. If you're watching, right below, it'll be there, and you can pick that up as well. Let's talk for a few minutes just about Adobe while I have you, because you're an evangelist. And it's your job. You've got to do it. You're obligated to. So you have to answer all of my customer complaint questions right now.
Yes. All right.
No, actually none whatsoever. What's going on new at Adobe? Creative Cloud was a gigantic change from super expensive software to a subscription model. And then there's been some variations in that the subscription models. But what's new? What's going on? What do you want to, if you could highlight one thing going on at Adobe, what would
I
you
think
say?
the really big exciting thing that we have working on is a new crop of mobile apps that are really, instead of trying to do stuff that you do on the desktop, but somehow kludge it onto a tablet, figure out how can we actually make the tablet a creative device
Sure.
that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Oh, good.
And so we've combined with a new hardware offering from us, Ink and Slide, which are it's a stylus and a ruler. So the idea is you can actually use these to draw straight lines in ways you couldn't necessarily do before
Yeah.
in drawing apps, and bringing some of Adobe's IP around image manipulation to the cloud. So, for example, there's a piece of tech we have called Content-Aware Fill. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically, before, like, you want to remove this thing. You've got this perfect picture, except there's a rock in the middle of the field, and it breaks whatever you're trying to do.
Right.
And before, it's relatively easy. You can highlight it and then do some work to remove it and replace it from other pieces, or you can just circle it, hit fill content aware, and it will do all that work for you and use algorithms to make it match perfect. It's really great tech. It's one of those things where what you see on movies that, like, you always know, like, people are doing, like, oh, they just got them right.
Yeah.
Like, no, you actually can do it now just like that.
Yeah.
But it's very processor intensive.
Okay.
So coming to a tablet, it's just not going to work.
Right.
But what we've done is we've put that stuff in the cloud so that our apps, you circle that on the tablet, it takes it, sends it up to the cloud, processes it, brings it back faster than you can ever do it on the tablet.
Right.
And so you start to be able to make really interesting choices.
Yeah.
So, for example, one of our things is something called shake reduce. So if your camera shipped when you took the picture, you get a blurry picture. But you do camera shake reduction, which will get rid of the reduction. It's really amazing when you see it. Now, it's one of those settings that have a whole bunch of little knobs that you're going to twiddle with until you get the right thing. Well, we're sending it to the cloud, right? So why don't we set it, and we'll do those multiple different settings, and we'll use our intelligence about what the right settings usually are to present you 3 copies of it. So which one is the clearest? As opposed to doing on the desktop where you'd be doing it iteratively. We can do it sequentially, bring it down, and say which one is the best.
Yeah. Just tell me which is the best, and you can have it.
So not just duplicating what you do on the desktop, but figuring out ways to use the tablet and the cloud together to do it in just fantastic ways we wouldn't think of before.
Very cool. No, very cool. I've always been super impressed with what Adobe's doing. I know it's a gigantic company with a whole bunch of stuff that they bought. Reader has had its struggles at times. It seems like we're kind of through most of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very special challenge with securing software that sits on 99% of desktops in the world.
Well, Microsoft called. They have the exact same problem. So it's always tough. I, as a podcaster, since I've got you, we'd love to see some embrace like that for the podcast community, which is help us make our audio that we push up and then have Audition online to make those edits and then kick it out. Because in Audition, there's tons of filters, right? Yeah. And the number one question we get with podcast coaching is, man, how do I operate those filters? How do I make that sound really good? How do I you're going to have
And every audio engineer will tell you 5 steps that are completely different than the other 5 steps you've heard.
Exactly. So that'd be great too. I think with audio, it's the same thing. Run it through some filters, levelers, normalizers. I mean, some of the stuff we use all the time, and then present to me. Here's the 3 files. Which one sounds the best to you?
Well, have you encountered Adobe Voice at all?
I have not.
So
No.
Adobe Voice is an app for telling stories. So basically, it's a tablet-based app. You select slides, you record audio, it's very simple. It's basically a tablet-based story presenting app.
Sure.
But one of the things we found was we originally had like crazy audio scrubbing in it. And then I think we switched at the last moment because we weren't happy with it to a very simple, like just a very simple filter.
Kind of
just
a normalization and boom.
And the response from that, everybody's asking like, "What did you guys do?" Well, we actually didn't do that much.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, doing very simple right things is the easiest.
Yeah.
And then, of course, having a good mic is...
It does help, right? And in this situation, with these mics, they're designed just for this environment. We pick up a little bit of the conference noise, which is what I want. I would not scrub this out. It's intended to be that way. I want that.
Show that you're in a dynamic place.
Yeah, no, exactly. And but if we get close enough to them, we get great sound out of them, But there are some, the podcast community is growing. It's growing rapidly, and an Audition is one of those tools we all use, a lot of us use. But I'd love to see some of what you guys are taking to pictures, movies, and apply that to audio and video, because today I'm dependent on Google if they're the only ones doing this kind of amazing work with video content and putting it out. Certainly you guys have all the stuff.
We have the IP, we just don't have it in the cloud yet.
Yeah.
So it is stuff that we're looking at.
Good.
It's definitely stuff that we're looking at. There's stuff in discussion and internally. But right now, like it's a little bit further out.
Yeah. I'm obligated to say this to you.
But I think it's very valid points. And
Podcasters around the world would be like, you had who from Adobe and you didn't. The other thing we'd love to see is you have a photographer's. So today as a podcaster, I want to use Audition and is Final Cut? No, what's Premiere. So I want to use those two. Today I use Audacity and I use Windows Movie Maker, which are two terrible. Right? They're okay. But I want those two tools. I can't buy them out. I want the same thing our photographer friends get, which is that. So I know you can't. I know you don't set pricing.
And it really comes down to the photographers were enough of an audience.
All right, so we just need to make a bunch of noise.
You need to make a lot of noise. That's really what it comes down to.
It starts today.
Do it.
No, good. That would just be. I always think about that every time I go out and look and think, am I going to subscribe? Is it time? Because I think I'm using an old version of Audition, like 3. And because I need it to convert my MP3s, it has that Funkenheiser or whatever MP3 encoder. That and I don't want to use iTunes. That's the other place I could go to do it, to get it done. But so every once in a while, about once a year, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go out and check the Creative Cloud site and see what my options are, hoping there'll be a new one. I knew you had some new announcements come out recently, right? Was there some recent changes? It wasn't there, but anything in the new announcements that besides what you talked about?
Those are probably the big pieces.
Okay.
The one thing that I'd say about Creative Cloud, part of the reason why we're hesitant to break it up into smaller pieces is because we found that, especially among creatives, the push is there for them to do more in different spaces. Most photographers are also doing video now. Video people have to do web. Web people have to do photos and video. And what we found is if we can drop the buffet price down to a price that it's a value to you to get what you need, then you get everything else too, and you can find that actually Photoshop is better for your use cases. So you bought it for Premiere and Audition, but wow, Photoshop and like all these new features that make it so much easier. So we've done a lot around making sure that you can discover what the new features are. Because that's the other thing. We just throw feature at you. How can we make that process better with better learning materials and whatnot?
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to the fact that, as a whole, creative work has become this monolithic range of stuff.
Yeah.
And we'd rather go after, let's bring everybody up, and it's a win-win because we're selling a product and you guys are all increasing. And that's sort of the strategy behind that.
No, I totally get it. Yeah. But as a selfish podcaster,
no, I understand.
Video and audio, but you say that though, and you're right, because once I started using it, then I'd be like, oh boy, it'd be nice to have Photoshop to be able to make this art, this album art, it would be nice to have to do the web. It would be nice to have some of those tools. So I totally get where you're coming from on that as well. So just to be a fair consumer.
Yeah, no,
I totally
I understand. It's it's $50 a month. You usually knock down to $30 a month.
Yeah.
And it's just basically our challenge is making sure there's enough value to you that $30 a month is a fair trade.
Right.
And that's what we're doing by adding intelligence. All of our mobile apps are free.
Yeah.
All of basically trying to make the cloud as high a value as possible. So you don't say I just want these pieces. I only want to pay for these pieces. You say, $50 a month for all of that? Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. If I was a full-time podcaster, that was my job, no brainer. As the part-time podcaster, and what a lot of us are, $50, even 30 is a you're like,
totally understand.
Anyways, not good or bad, just little feedback from the podcast community.
Prosumer is a tough space.
Yeah.
That's,
right, totally.
It's a very, there are a lot of you.
Yep.
But how do we?
And we're a pain to support, right? Because it's like everybody's got these weird problems, and no, I get that. I live in the Microsoft space, and so I totally understand the consumer problems. But I appreciate the conversation with you, because I have never gotten a chance to talk with somebody from Adobe. You're the right guy to do that. We're not expecting any change, but it's great to just have that conversation.
And we're not, we're not shutting the door on
no.
any of those sorts of
not at all.
bundles.
Just know if you're ever in a meeting and somebody says, hey, we were thinking about Audition, and you're like, I know some podcasters. Anyways,
I think there's no plans to do any sort of other packages right now. If there was going to be a next one, the one I hear most isn't audio. It's AV as a total package.
Which would include what in there?
Well, I mean,
do you think?
Again, this is hypothetical.
No, absolutely. No, I get you.
We have really scary looks.
Yeah, I know. Trust
me,
I would
say it'd be Premiere, After Effects, Audition. Those three, most people that use those also use Photoshop to some degree.
Yeah.
So that I would think that's a possibility, but that is a total hypothetical based on what I hear from people asking for it. But in the grand scheme of things, most of the AV, most people that are doing professional AV, that are doing all that, their stuff is so expensive that $50 a month is a drop.
They don't even bat an eye.
And again, it's difficult. Working with marketing for so long, I know when marketing is unhappy with how much we're charging and our customers are unhappy with how much we're charging, we're probably in the right spot, unfortunately.
Yes.
So
you've got the one wants to charge more, one wants less. You've met in the middle. They're both angry.
Yeah.
And so I think it's I am both intrigued and interested in the directions Adobe is going with their stuff, and I think as a podcast community in general, we land more because so many podcasters do this stuff on a shoestring. It's a hobby. And to commit $50 a month just in that scenario, it's like, oh man, that is.
I understand. Wish we had better solutions.
Well, hey, you know what? Keep working on it, and I just appreciate the conversation around it. Not what I intended to go to, but since I was thinking about it,
got me. So
I appreciate your openness on it, Terry. Well, so thanks for coming out. Thanks for being a part of it. Good luck tomorrow morning. We'll be here. I'll try and pop in and hear your discussion. But thanks for the interview. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me.
You bet. Thank you.